Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we try to make sense of all the corporate mumbo jumbo. Today we're digging into Archrock, Incorporated's latest filing, and let's just say they've put out a presentation that might just be their way of whispering sweet nothings to investors. So, what is the big deal? Archrock Incorporated put out an investor presentation on the 12th of November 2025. Now, this isn't your typical company update full of tables and dry facts. They're using this as a way to communicate with their investors, and they're being pretty upfront about how they'll handle future updates. It seems like they're saying, hey, we've put this information out there, and if we change it, you can find it on our website. You might not hear from us in a big formal filing every single time. This filing itself, a Form 8K, is usually for really significant events. Today though, it is mostly about pointing you to their investor presentation. Think of it as a signpost saying, go here for the important stuff. They're telling everyone that this presentation is available on their website, specifically in the investor relations section, and that they might not file another big report if they update it. This is kind of interesting because it suggests they want to keep things less formal and more dynamic, relying on their website for the latest on their investor materials. Now, for those of you who love the nitty-gritty, Archrock is registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission under file number 001-33666. They are incorporated in Delaware and have an employer identification number of 74 to 3,204,509. Their main office is located in Houston, Texas. Let's talk about what the company actually does and what it is traded on. Archrock's common stock, with a par value of 1 cent per S-share, trades under the symbol ARC on the New York Stock Exchange, as well as NYSE Texas. This tells us they are a publicly traded company, and investors can buy and sell shares of their ownership. Now, about that investor presentation they released on the 12th of November, the filing doesn't actually include the presentation itself, which is a bit of a bummer if you were expecting us to dissect their latest numbers right here. However, we know it is out there on their website. The key takeaway here is their intention to use their website as the primary channel for consistent updates to this investor presentation. This means that if you are an investor, you'll need to keep an eye on their website for any changes or new information they share about their performance or strategy. They're making it clear that they might not issue a formal 8K filing for every minor update, which streamlines their reporting process, but potentially requires investors to be more proactive in seeking information. And finally, signing off on this report is Stephanie C. Hildebrandt, who holds the important titles of Senior Vice President, General Counsel, and Secretary for Archrock Incorporated. This signature tells us who officially authorized the filing on behalf of the company. Now, let's talk about what this all means for Archrock. On the surface, this filing is pretty light on hard financial data within the document itself. It is more of a procedural announcement about where to find important investor information. The real story and the meat of what investors would be looking for is likely within that investor presentation they're directing everyone to. The fact that they're relying on their website for updates suggests a move towards more agile communication. This can be a good thing for investors who want timely information, but also a challenge if the website isn't kept meticulously updated or if important details are buried. From a business perspective, Archrock is involved in the natural gas compression services industry. They provide compression services that are critical for the transportation of natural gas. This means their business is tied to the energy sector, particularly to the production and movement of natural gas. In the current energy landscape, this can be a stable business, but it is also subject to the volatilities of energy prices and regulatory changes affecting the industry. What is interesting here is their strategy to disseminate information. By not filing a formal 8K for every presentation update, they are streamlining their reporting. This isn't uncommon, but for investors, it means they need to be diligent. Without seeing the actual presentation, it is hard to comment on specific financial figures or strategic shifts. However, the very act of putting out an investor presentation and highlighting it in an 8K signals that they have something they want to communicate to the investment community, likely related to their performance, outlook, or strategy. Looking at the broader market, companies in the energy infrastructure space like Archrock often focus on stable, long-term contracts. Their success hinges on their ability to maintain and expand their fleet of compressors and secure advantageous agreements with natural gas producers and midstream companies. Any presentation they put out would typically cover topics like their backlog of projects, their utilization rates, their debt levels, and their outlook for capital expenditures. If they are highlighting specific improvements or new strategies, it could indicate they are trying to signal confidence or address investor concerns. The risk for Archrock, as with any company in the energy sector, includes fluctuations in commodity prices, changes in environmental regulations, and the overall demand for natural gas. They also face competition from other service providers. The way they present their information will be scrutinized by investors to gauge how they are navigating these challenges and capitalizing on opportunities. In conclusion, while this specific filing is more about process than substance, it points to Archrock's communication strategy. They are leaning on digital channels, which is modern but requires attention from those following the company. The real analysis of Archrock's health and direction lies within that investor presentation. As investors, we need to see the numbers and the narrative they are presenting to understand their true trajectory. What are their strengths? Are they demonstrating operational efficiencies? What are the key opportunities they are pursuing? And what are the notable risks they are facing? Without the presentation itself, we're left to speculate based on their communication choices. It seems like Archrock is telling investors to keep a close eye on their website, suggesting that the most important updates might be found there, rather than in every formal filing. That is our breakdown of Archrock's latest filing. What is your take on their communication strategy and what it might signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments if this analysis was valuable. Hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description for more community discussions. Thanks for watching. See you next time.